All right, live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Instagram. I think we're good to go. Good morning, Deluxe Florals on Instagram. Good to see you. We are 8:30 Mountain Time. Let's get this show started. Welcome to Mornings with Scott, the best damn business show for medium and small businesses on the planet. Love my soundtrack from Ion Clark. He introduced this on the show maybe a couple of days ago. A week ago. And so you can go watch the interview with Ion if you want to go back and look at a past episode. Globe and Mail. I tell all you U.S. audience members, of which it's more than half. I think we have a decent split between U.S. and Canada, other places in the world as well. But I think we skew towards the U.S. The Globe and Mail is the Canadian Wall Street Journal. Think of it that way. Anyways, says that opposition party BC United. BC is British Columbia, the province in Canada, like a state. Opposition party BC United collapses and will not participate in October election campaign. British Columbia's once dominant center-right party has collapsed, and its leader has withdrawn the BC United Party from the next provincial election to instead endorse the BC Conservatives, a party that hasn't formed a government in the province since 1928. 1928. Let me make sure I have my comments on here. Look, if you come from the East, all of my friends in the East, in Toronto and Ottawa, and Quebec, it's really confusing here in British Columbia, where I now live, because the political parties don't make any sense to us. Like this BC United Party, which is merging with the Conservatives, in fact, as I understand it, used to be the Liberal Party here in the province of British Columbia, which for you Americans would be the Democrat Party. It's like they merged with the Republicans because there was something even further left of the Democrat. It's all very confusing. And here they are out of this election. And I think that news makes most people in BC really stop and think and wonder to themselves, wait, there's an election in October? I live in British Columbia. I didn't know there was an election in October. Organic Chef Heather, thank you for joining, a regular listener to the show. Did you know there was an election? I had no idea there was an election in British Columbia, and I live here. And by contrast, the U.S. election, well, I've been excited about this. I think we all have for over a year now. It has dominated the news cycle through the primaries. We're getting closer to the election. And tonight is the big interview. Kamala Harris will finally have her first interview tonight in months and months and months and months and months, and her first since President Biden resigned, or not resigned from being president, but dropped out of the primaries. So he removed himself from becoming the Democrat nominee for president and was replaced with Kamala Harris. So that's exciting. And since she has taken over this position, has not had one unscripted statement. Not one. Well, I don't count that thing where she was getting on the airplane and said whatever. She's rejected all interviews. She's refused to release any policies at all, on the premise that she doesn't have any policies because, it was all thrust upon her and she's busy making her policies. Except she did release two policies. One was price controls on food, and rent controls on real estate, which of course, even people in her own party, economists in her own party said, well, wait a minute, that's never worked anywhere in the history of the world. That has never worked. And what that's going to do is limit supply and create shortages in food and housing, which will drive up prices even further. And the second policy she talked about was taxing unrealized capital gains. You hold an investment, because many of you are investors, that investment goes up, you don't sell it, yet you have to pay tax on it. And now what are you going to do? You don't have the cash because you didn't sell the investment. Maybe it's an illiquid investment. You've got real trouble. So that doesn't happen anywhere in the world, by the way. That's a completely unique type of tax, which is punitive and is guaranteed to drive down the economy. It's ridiculously stupid. It makes no sense at all. So she's had these two policies released, but now Now she will do the hard-hitting interview with CNN, and we can finally get to the bottom of her policies, and we can make some informed decisions if we want to vote for her or for Trump. What? No? No? Oh, sorry. It's not live. It's recorded, this interview, in advance and then edited. It will be edited by CNN. That was told to us up front. Well, that's fair, right? I mean, I'm sure CNN will be fair and objective in its edits. They won't try to make Kamala look competent and confident. They wouldn't do that. Oh, wait. I'm hearing that they gave her the questions in advance. They gave her the questions in advance of the interview. That was part of the deal. And also, Dana Bash of CNN is the interviewer. Dana Bash, of course, has a prior is a family friend. They're a family friend of the Harrises. And well, at least we get to hear from Kamala, right? She's going to be on the spot for however long they give her, and she'll be answering questions. And at least we'll get. Maybe it won't be hard hitting. Maybe they'll edit out the fumbles and the stupid things that might be said and the mistakes that could skew the election results. But at least we get to hear from her and see into who this person. Oh, wait, no, she's bringing her emotional support running mate. She's bringing her running mate to the interview because she can't go alone. That was another condition of doing an interview. Not everyone is cut out to be a leader. You want to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone is cut out to be a leader. Not everybody should be president of the United States. I actually kind of like Kamala. I don't want to. She seems like a decent person when you see her talk. That's just my feeling. But could there be any more signs that she's not capable, or perhaps not confident? Maybe it's a confidence issue. Maybe it's not a capability issue. But wow. But she can read a teleprompter. She can read a teleprompter when she's up giving speeches. She's good at that. She can read. She can deliver that speech, and she basically reads anything that comes across her teleprompter from her staff. Did you see now that she's going to build a wall? Honestly, she's going to build a wall. And that after she stole Trump's no tax on tips policy or campaign promise. Her teleprompter these days is exactly Trump's platform. It is taking Trump's platform, and she just stands up there and reads it. It doesn't matter what she has said or done in the past. She is the Ron Burgundy of U.S. politics. F-U, AOC, Ron Burgundy. And you may ask yourself, Scott, why are you doing this story? Yes, I took you on this journey for no other reason than I wanted to say the Ron Burgundy of U.S. politics. All right. I got that done. Theme of our show, as you will know, it's only been a month and change into this Mornings with Scott that we have been trying out. And one of the themes in the early days of the show has been that all data is fake. All data is fake. The news is fake. Data is fake. Forecasts are fake. Everything is fake, particularly in an election year. And so you and we need a higher level of awareness to make decisions and to run our businesses, and make our investments. We need a higher level of awareness because all data is fake. Well, Kevin Yin is a contributing columnist for the Globe and Mail. Again, the Globe and Mail, the Canadian Wall Street Journal, and an economics doctoral student at the University of California, Berkeley. This Kevin Yin, they gave you a little picture, right? It's like it's half the size of a dime in a little circle of who this contributing columnist is. And he looks like 14 in this picture, but you can't click on it to see it larger. So anyways, I don't know. He looks like a young person, which makes sense since he's a doctoral student. And the column is why analysts are so often wrong in their economic estimates and why that's okay. We're so used to being bombarded with forecasts and predictions from economic analysts, it's easy to forget just how often these corporate influencers are wrong. At the beginning of August, the panic sell-off in equity markets was prompted in part by the fact that the weak U.S. employment data caught analysts significantly off guard. Before that, in March, forecasters had expected 25,000 new jobs in Canada, in March. Yeah. His writing, by the way, is very convoluted, so it's difficult to to follow his sentences. But basically, in February, March, earlier in the year, Canada expected 25,000 new jobs, and instead we lost 2,200 jobs. So it went from positive to negative. A month earlier, the number of jobs created in January came in at more than double what was predicted. So the economic forecasts from the experts are nowhere close. All data is fake. The particularly comical case was October 22, where Canada created 10 times more jobs than analysts predicted. So he goes on to say, and this is interesting, that these analysts use a combination of statistical models, academic theory. So they have a statistical model, academic theory, which means they kind of play around with the model, and personal judgment, which means they just say whatever they want to say to churn out numbers and predictions for their clients to consume, right? This is a business. So they create these models, use their academic theory and their judgment to tell the clients what they think is going to happen in the economy. And businesses make capital allocation decisions, traders trade, you make investments, consumers feel good or feel bad. The consumer sentiment goes up and down, depending often on what economists have to say. Many, like myself, are economists, and while many of our jobs require poring over pages and pages of such analysis, few of us would be willing to bet our hard-earned cash on these views. So he's straight up telling you, this Mr. Yin, that he's straight up telling you that he wouldn't spend his own money based on the prediction that his industry creates for you. And he says, but in defense of these forecasters, even though the projections are wrong, in defense of them, part of the issue is just that the problem is very hard. So, you know, they go through all this work. He has a doctoral degree, or he's in the middle of it, but he says, you know, man, this is hard work, and so we're just not going to be right because it's too hard. He says, but these challenges alone do not explain why the many forecasts are systemically incorrect. It's not just the task being hard doesn't explain why it's systemically incorrect. That is why they tend to clump so tightly together when they are wrong. Statistical models, he says, statistical models, which is what these are, provide probabilities and error bands and many likely scenarios. Sorry, I need to turn that phone off. Many likely scenarios. And that would suggest that purely on a quantitative basis, you would have an array of results. They would be all over the place, right? So if I'm building a model, you're building a model, someone else is building a model, our models are just going to end up all over the place. And we would see this wide distribution of probable results, but they don't. Instead, they all come in. This is again where I'm not reading the article because his language doesn't make any sense and they seem to miss some things, but they don't. They all come into more or less a narrow band. The predictions all show up sort of saying more or less the same thing with some probability distribution. And he calls that the herding effect. In other words, they all come in together. And this may be the most important sentence written in the last decade. He next says, this herding effect is due to the flexibility that analysts have to ignore their models. So they build all these statistical models and then they just ignore them. And the incentive structure of the market for predictions. So let that sink in. This herding effect is due to the flexibility that analysts have to ignore the models and the incentive structures of the market for predictions. Apply that to all experts, all data, all science and related models all the time. It's the truth about projections. If you build a model, you're an economist, you're a scientist in whatever field. I don't want to name a field because I don't want to be shadow banned by the algorithm, but just you're building a model, and your model with all of your hard work turns out statistically and materially a different result than everybody else's model. What are you going to do? Are you going to go out on a limb and release your model and argue that point? Or are you going to scrap that model and create a new model that trends towards the mean so you don't get fired? Back to Mr. Yin, being the only wrong one in the room might leave you without a job. But being wrong without being wrong with everyone else can be forgiven. The future may not be like the past, but if no one else is pointing that out, it's often safer to act as if it will be. So, Mr. Yin here is just flat out telling you he's lifted the kimono. He is flat out telling you the economic data is made up. It's made up because no one's auditing. Hey, your model said this, but your ultimate prediction was that. No one's doing that. So they have all sorts of flexibility, no matter what their quantitative analysis might say, and the economic pressure of the market forces them to be in a herd, to trend towards the mean. I don't know. This young Mr. Yin is going to be thrown out of the deep state club. 100%. He's just going to be thrown out for this disclosure. He goes on to say, yet while accusing I love this, while accusing the forecaster of a snake oil salesmanship will never go out of style, which is what I'm doing right now, by the way. It will never go out of style to say these economists are full of it and data scientists and everybody else. It's worth reflecting on what the alternative would be. Fair enough. Demand for an informed view of the future would persist. And in the absence of methodical professionals like Mr. Yin, charlatans and dilettantes would rush in to fill the void. In other words, if we don't make up the data, some unaccredited person who I don't approve of will make up the data. Ooh, we can't have that. I should be the one making up this data. So let's summarize here. His profession is hard, which makes the work impossible. Economists, his profession, are always wrong. And because they know they are wrong, they change their results on purpose due to market pressures so that they could all be wrong together. But that solution is better than some icky, non-educated Ivy League person making their own projections who would also be wrong. Therefore, he deserves a participation trophy and a pat on the back. That's basically the summary of this article. Here's my question. Is Mr. Yin the most brave person in the world for this disclosure, or is he such in an academic bubble that he doesn't have any idea how ridiculous this sounds to those that might be relying on his sham and his industry's sham work? What an amazing article. It's no wonder we're all screwed. If these are the smart ones. I once had lunch with an economist who I like a lot, excellent guy, and he said that he loved being an economist because eventually you are always right. I like that line. That's decades old, that line, but I like that line a lot. I like being an economist because eventually you're always right. Conclusion. Economic forecasts are made up. Actual data is made up, particularly in an election year. The news, as we talked about the other day, is wrong. Govern yourself accordingly. Have a higher level of awareness when you're making decisions for your business or for investments. All right. Cannabis retailer in Canada, Tokyo Smoke, is closing 29 stores as it seeks creditor protection. Sorry about that. Allergies kicking in. So Tokyo Smoke saying it will be shuttering 29 of its stores as it seeks creditor protection. The closures are part of a restructuring that the brand is carrying out under the Companies Creditors Arrangement Act. For you U.S. international listeners, the Company Creditors Arrangement Act, CCAA, is Canadian legislation similar to Chapter 11. There's definitely nuances, but same sort of idea as Chapter 11. You go to a bankruptcy judge, you say, hey, can you help me restructure my unsecured debt and make a proposal to these creditors? And that's what this Tokyo Smoke is doing. Tokyo Smoke says that the moves are meant to better align its operations with the current cannabis market and regulatory conditions, which the company says have changed significantly. 167 locations across Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland, and Labrador will remain opening amid the restructuring, but they're closing 29. So if you're seeking bankruptcy protection as a company, here's a couple of things that you can do that are really important. One is if you have hostile creditors coming at you, and I'm not saying hostile isn't bad. I'm saying hostile is if you haven't paid them and they're frustrated and they don't know what else to do. So they're suing you and they can garnish or they can shut you down or they can petition you to bankruptcy or whatever. um, Filing bankruptcy protection just puts a stop to that. The judge says, okay, everybody chill. We're going to put everything on hold and we're going to try and work this out and go through a process so that we can save jobs. That's basically, instead of like wiping out this company, that's basically what you're doing there. And so if you have a bunch of unsecured, even secured debt, that is a way. CCAA is the primary way for larger companies to deal with that in Canada. And Chapter 11 would be a way to deal with that in the United States. Also, if you're in the retail business or in any business, but retail in particular, it allows you to break fixed contracts. So if you have a lease on a store that is out of the market, too expensive, you're losing on that location, you can break that lease and with the protection of the bankruptcy course and get out of it so that you can survive going forward, because really there's no other way to get out of a fixed contract without bankruptcy protection. There's informal negotiation, but no other legal way to get yourself out of that. And that's why you see retailers filing for protection and bankruptcy all the time. Wow, allergies today are bad. Might be the smoke out here in BC, but that's why you see retailers breaking their leases all the time through bankruptcy protection. And the third thing that is relevant, I think, to this situation is you can break those leases. You can get rid of your bad debt, the debt that you're not able to pay. You can turn around operations with the protection of the court, and then you can sell the business, the remaining business, which is profitable, and you can have what's called a vesting order, something from the court that says to the prospective purchaser, hey, all of these other creditors that aren't get paid, they have no claim on you. They don't come along with the sale of this business. And so you're getting these assets free and clear. That's the benefits of the seeking bankruptcy protection. So if you are ever interested in this in Canada, I will tell you, I don't know the US, I need to look this up. But in Canada, for sure, if you want to learn about the industry, the specific details of the debtor in possession loan, what else? The creditor list, all of the information is in the court filings, and the court filings are on the CCAA Monitor's website, which I looked up last night, and I started going through it. Now, I started going through it, and I've really just started, but they give you some generic reasons for the bankruptcy filing. And here they gave three reasons. One is operating losses. Since its inception, Tokyo Smoke has expended significant costs and effort to grow their business, achieve revenue targets, and improve performance. But a large number of the retail locations do not generate sufficient revenue to achieve positive cash flow. What's the expense? I mean, direct materials are always expense, so their margins in the cannabis industry have been squeezed, but the expense in a retail outlet is basically the lease. You need to remember that. And so they're not selling enough to cover their lease, and therefore they need to break the lease, right? As we said. Why are they not selling enough? Because they have had the legal cannabis regime in Canada has lost to the black market. That's the bottom line. It is overregulated. It is too expensive to meet the regulation. And so, and we've had too much supply in Canada for a long, long time. And so the legal market has lost, and you could just go buy your stuff from your local drug dealer, and why bother going to the store where things are way more expensive, and the strains from the drug dealer are probably better anyways. And so they're not selling enough. They need to break the lease for the 12 months ended June 30th, 2024. They had 93.5 million in revenue, so they're about a $100 million company, and negative 10.5 million of EBITDA. And they're highly levered. They owe the Bank of Montreal. Is that what it says here? Bank of Montreal and TS Investments, $102 million on their balance sheet. That would be their secured debt. This TS Investments, whoever they are, putting in the debtor in possession loan to help finance the restructuring. So we're going to follow this story a little bit. I like the cannabis space. I have a lot of experience in it, so I'm interested in this and the trends that are going on there. I have a story about Flair Airlines in Canada, also seeking a strategic partner and restructuring, but my allergies are killing me this morning, and we're 27 minutes into this, so I'm going to save that. Hey, I have an announcement. Tomorrow, we will not be 8:30 Mountains, and the reason is because it's Friends Friday. Yeah, Friends Friday, and we have a guest coming on tomorrow. At least we should have. I think it's been confirmed, but he's in a different time zone, so we're going to be 11 Mountain, 1 o'clock Eastern. Is that right? 10 Pacific, 11 Mountain, 1 o'clock. Yeah. So 1 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. We're going to shift this to accommodate a guest that I think you will enjoy. And do I have any comments that I need to pick up? Nothing. Apologize for the allergies this morning. And I think we are done. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you tomorrow at a different time.